This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
Welcome to The Secret Life of Cookies, where we try to solve the world's problems through the miracle of carbohydrates, one recipe at a time, with host Marissa Rothkopf and her dog, Bosco.
This week, I have the honor of being joined by Dr. Allison Gill, she of the Daily Beans podcast and Cleanup on Aisle 45. It's been a rough and disturbing week of news, both here at home and, of course, in Ukraine. Allison, thanks be, offers some clarity on it all, as well as some positive thoughts. Yeah, not about what's going on in the Ukraine, but we do talk about the future of democratic messaging in this country and how they can spread their message farther, wider, and let's just say it better. I hope you enjoy the conversation. I made a Ukrainian-style honey and poppy seed cake this week. I know it's easy to feel so helpless as we watch and read what's going on in Ukraine, but you might find some solace and solidarity in making a traditional Ukrainian cake. You can find the recipe on my Substack, marissarothkopf.substack.com, where you'll also find a link where you can donate funds to help the World Central Kitchen's efforts in Ukraine. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all on the other side. Hello, Dr. Allison Gill, and welcome to that wonderful thing called The Secret Life of Cookies. Except today it's The Secret Life of Cake.
There's a hole in that cake.
I made a mistake. There's a hole in the cake.
How are you, Marissa?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. I kind of hear that you're on vacation. So I'm very grateful that you're taking, let's consider this a vacation respite. We won't talk about anything bad. So we'll just talk about things going on in the world.
Nothing bad going on in the world at all. No, I'm happy to be here. This I consider this fun free time. And I mean, I might not be exactly camera ready, but that's okay. The folks can see me for who I really am behind the scenes.
She has very cute pigtails and everybody, and this looks wonderful and very intelligent too. She looks very intelligent. I don't want to objectify you.
The glasses, right? If I take them off, I immediately don't look as... I do have a blazer over here hanging up in my office if we need to get professional, if we need to talk pro.
That's good. And a necktie in case. Like in the olden days, like at restaurants when they'd be like, I'm sorry, sir, you can't come in unless you have a necktie and a blazer. Those were the days. Those were the restaurants. Now it's Applebee's. No one's doing it.
My friend and I used to work at a bar, and we would get these guys coming in at night. It's California, right? So they'd be wearing tank tops and flip-flops and stuff. And so we went to a thrift store and we bought a bunch of shirts and we cut the sleeves off with the collar. And we said, sleeves are required here tonight, but we have some for you if you need. And they would just put these random sleeves on. Didn't match anything. Those were the days.
Those were the days. And boy, do I wish I had photographs of that. That is genius.
Thank you. Yeah, we call them sleeveys.
I think you could probably do a lot selling those these days. But maybe people just don't care anymore, and you would be infringing upon their freedom if you forced them to wear sleeves.
Probably, yeah. Although I think at the pub that we went to, it was considered more funny. And we also had this thing in California where you couldn't have a ladies' night because it was considered sexist against men. So what we did was we had skirt night. So
it wasn't considered sexist against women. It was considered sexist.
So we had skirt night. So if you were wearing a skirt, no matter your gender, you got discounts on drinks. So that always proved to be a fun time as well.
That sounds like a great place. And I think we should bring it all back. Like when all these jobs go away, we should just have fun pubs like that. Or when we're all in the street, I think it'll be like that. But we're not quite there yet. There's a lot seems to talk about. You're not baking along with me today. I have, in fact, baked today, and I baked not surprisingly, a Ukrainian style cake. It's a honey poppy seed cake with orange, and it's going to be glazed in an orange and a honey glaze. Poppy seed being super popular. I didn't really say that. Super popular in the Ukraine and the home of my peoples, as it turns out. My brother did some deep digging, and hey, no surprise, whatever part of Poland we thought were from was really part of Ukraine in that time.
Well,
so there you go.
Hats off to Ukraine and the Ukrainian people and President Zelensky. I mean, just what an overnight hero, global hero. Even like Erdogan and Orban and neutral Switzerland are like, nah, dude, you know. And it's although I feel I wish I could do more as that long convoy is set up outside Kyiv. I have that feeling I did when I saw the attack launched in the Gulf War. And then also the same feeling when I saw the towers fall from my television screen in California. And I got down on my knees in front of the television and tried to hold the tower up. I couldn't stop any of it from happening. And it was so just ripped your heart out to see the suffering that's going on in Ukraine. And I'm glad that the International Criminal Court has opened an investigation. Putin should be tried for war crimes. And I don't know what the end looks like for this. I don't know if the Russian people will stage a coup and overthrow Putin, because the world has cut him off from everything. Today, Nord Stream 2, everyone was fired and they filed for bankruptcy.
Right. I saw that. That's crazy.
And then I don't know where Republicans are going to get their campaign rubles anymore.
No, it's going to be hard for them. But apparently they still believe that it's going to be good for them, right? I mean, today is it's the State of the Union, and we have Republicans saying things are terrible, going on terribly in the United States, which is it's just so lovely to see them putting together such a strong support of our country in the time when we have Mr. Putin at home rattling his sabers, rattling his nuclear missiles at all of us. We had Roy Blunt this morning saying the State of the Union is not good. And I think of you and I think, okay, well, look, she does Daily Beans podcast, Clean Up in Aisle 45, which is like the best name of a podcast ever, and have spent a lot of the past X number of years making sense of stuff, right? And that's why we all love you. You bring a lot of perspective, and just good old-fashioned intellectual knowledge to all of this. But my question for you then is, how do we get the Republicans to ever agree to support our country as a whole?
We need the media to keep asking them the question, if they support democracy or autocracy. And we need to start our messaging for the midterm elections in 2024 and beyond, that it's not about Republican v. Democrat anymore. It's about democracy versus autocracy. I opened up by telling you how helpless I feel, and, this feeling of just helplessness and fear for the Ukrainian people. The thing that we can do as American citizens is vote to preserve democracy, because a vote to preserve democracy in the United States is a vote to preserve and protect democracy around the world. And that's what we're up against. We're up against Vladimir Putin, because a lot of Republicans are on his side and cheering him on and calling him a savvy genius. And Tucker Carlson talking about, why would I support Ukraine? And Mike Pompeo saying, who the F cares about you, the Ukrainian people?
No Americans care about the effing Ukrainians.
That's what we are up against.
That's a great message to send out to the world, Mr. Pompeo. Thank you.
Yeah, we can't let them forget either.
Right. And to your point, like, we used to be that we were like a standard for the world. Remember the olden days? Like, even in the time of that lovely man, Ronald Reagan, I'm kidding. I really hated every moment of that, even as a sort of young person, teenager. And yet there was some sort of pride, right? And we used to be a standard for the world, like I said. And I feel like the Republicans are like slashing holes in that left and right.
Yeah,
starting from
they're unraveling the work of Ronald Reagan with Gorbachev to tear down the wall. They've fall on all over themselves, worshiping Ronald Reagan, but they're destroying his legacy.
Yeah, that's a part. I don't know how that writes itself. You know,
how can Orban? How can you
Viktor Orban, who I don't think has ever done anything vaguely decent, right? Maybe he likes puppies. I don't know, but nothing vaguely decent for humans. And here he is supporting the Ukrainians. That to me was sort of shocking in my innocent way. Okay, let's go back to February 14th, 2022. Can we do that?
Sure.
Where you used to talk about this thing called the Mueller report, and that was important to people at the time. We thought a lot was going to happen with it. And as the days go by, we are losing our opportunity to prosecute some of these things that were brought up during the Mueller report. And I'm sort of wondering, can you predict anything with this? Like, do you see like there a possibility of anything coming from this?
I tweet at the U.S. Attorney in D.C. Pretty much on a weekly basis these days, saying either prosecute, investigate for obstruction of justice, as laid out beautifully in Volume 2 of the Mueller report, or if you're unable to, because Barr made the decision, the declination decision, and if you're unable to overturn that, or you don't think that you can get a conviction and sustain one upon an appeal, then explain your declination. Prosecutors aren't required in the Department of Justice to tell us why they failed to prosecute anyone, unless there's a substantial public interest. And I think in this case, there is. We also aren't certain that even if those obstruction charges could hold up, that the statute of limitations clock stopped ticking on a lot of them. Because if the crime continues, the statute of limitations doesn't start. The clock doesn't start on that. So we, at this current time, have no idea what the Department of Justice is doing. And that's by design. Many people disagree with that because of just the massive public interest. We're in a situation we've never been in before, potential prosecution of a former president. And so I don't think, if they fail to prosecute Donald Trump for what was in the Mueller report, I don't think that's necessarily a dereliction of duty. Failure to look at it and tell us why you can't, I think would be. So that's where I'm at on those, because statute of limitations for the stuff that I think is most prosecutable, where the Mueller report outlined that the actions meet all three elements of criminal obstruction of justice federally, are the McGahn things, right? And we secured McGahn's testimony last May, and we got our new U.S. attorney in D.C. in November. Believe it or not, it took 11 months to get a D.C. U.S. attorney appointed because, gosh, the Republican senators didn't want a really good D.C. U.S. attorney. I can't figure out why.
Also, I think their astrological signs meant that they couldn't appoint a D.C. attorney at that point. They had done a reading, with the Congress's psychic, and Mitch McConnell relies on them a lot.
Yeah, if we do that, he'll be, if we appoint him in November, early November, then his tenure will be born under the sign of Libra, which is the justice, which is scales, and we can't have that. So
no, we can't have that.
Must be why they did that. But I do want everyone to be clear, because there's a lot of Garland bashing going on. Not so much anymore since Russian money was cut off, by the way. And I understand the frustrations with the time that it's taking. However, Garland isn't the one investigating. He's not. It's the DC U.S. attorney. And so I would kind of direct your comments to that person, because it would be the DC U.S. attorney that would bring Mueller report charges. It would be the DC U.S. attorney that would bring January 6th charges, as so beautifully outlined by Barb McQuaid in her latest piece in Just Security.
And covered on your podcast, which was chef's kiss. Yes.
He's amazing. She did a whole 27-page mock charging document for how Trump could be brought up on conspiracy.
Some people do jigsaw puzzles. That's what she did. And I'm grateful for it, because I haven't actually read it yet. I heard about it on your podcast, but what a great thing. Can you just explain briefly to people what she did? Like, spell it out a little bit more.
Lay it out, because there's certain federal rules of criminal procedure that say you have to be able to obtain and sustain a conviction, or you can't bring the indictment. sustain it on appeal. And, there would be extensive voir dire, to make sure that the jury isn't tainted by media or public knowledge, which would be very difficult in a former president against former president. But it's doable, she says. There's prosecutorial discretion, which has to be taken into account. But she says there is enough evidence in the public, available to the public right now, to charge him with 18 U.S. Code 371, which is conspiracy to defraud the United States, and 18 U.S. Code 1512C2, which is obstructing an official proceeding. And that was with the Pence elector thing. And she lays it all out. She meets all the elements. She gives all the evidence. And then she covers intent. You have to prove that he knew he lost the election. And she says there's 800 ways. Barr told him he lost in court 62 times. His White House counsel told him, that's why he got rid of them and put in like Eastman and Giuliani and this little kind of like that shadow Ukraine policy group, the Three Amigos. He did the same thing for his own lawyer. He's like, I need lawyers who will tell me yes. The call with Raffensperger, the call with Rosen. There's a million things that say, and as Barb McQuaid said, look, you can say the earth is flat, but at some point, you can't say that to get out of being prosecuted for crimes. You have to acknowledge what's obvious. And so she lays it all out there and says, this is prosecutable. She's Barb McQuaid. She worked on the transition team. She's amazing. She has very close ties in with this administration. I would be very surprised if the DC U.S. attorney hadn't seen that. His responsibility to bring those charges. Garland is not going to say no. And if he does, then the prosecutor is probably going to resign, just like Pomerantz and Dunn resigned from the Manhattan DA's office. We would see resignations in the Department of Justice if they had a case and Merrick Garland refused to allow it to go forward. So it's kind of just, and I've worked for the government for a long time. If I'm the DC U.S. attorney and I've got a good case, I go to Merrick Garland and I say, hey, I'm just letting you know I'm bringing an indictment. And Merrick Garland's probably not going to object to that. He swore under oath when he testified to Congress last November that if the Inspector General sends him criminal referrals, he will take the recommendation of the Inspector General. He's not going to say no to anything. So I just kind of want everyone to understand it's not up to Garland whether or not these charges are brought. And you can scream about it on Twitter, but on the justice.gov site, there is a phone number and an email address and a digital form you can fill out, and you can tell the Department of Justice how you feel about these issues. I think it will go a lot farther than just yelling into the Twitter void or the Instagram void. So I would recommend people do that. And I do it all the time. I send them letters all the time, like Andy Dufresne. I'm like, here's another letter. Obstruction of justice charges. You either bring them or tell me why you're not, because I need to know. And so that's sort of where I'm at with the Department of Justice. And I also wanted to just sort of echo one last thing Barb McQuaid said. There's no possible way that they would be able to finish and bring charges against Donald Trump in an investigation into January 6th and the big lie and all the events leading up to it in a year. She says, I've worked on cases far less complex that could take years. And I know we don't have years, but the worst thing we could do is either not charge, not investigate, or bring it and lose. Mm-hmm. So it has to be done right.
Absolutely agree. Bosco's just walked in. He thinks that there is something for him to eat here, but it's all food you don't like.
Oh, Bosco doesn't like cake?
I mean, I'm sure if I dropped it on the floor, he'd be willing to try it, but he prefers pizza bones, as people refer to them, the crust. I thought that was the cutest thing I ever heard. But I'm a simple person. I'm currently, just to take a moment away from what we're talking about, I'm mixing up a glaze of honey and cara orange, which is my favorite orange because it's pink. It's a pink orange. And that just seems so screwed up to me that I really appreciate that. It's a pink and it's an orange. All right. As a former member of the military, how do you, I guess that you were talking about it before, about how you would like to be able to head into the Ukraine and work. I mean, did you see the people stopping the convoy today in Kyiv? The Russians were coming in, screaming at them, and they're, doing the Tiananmen Square thing and trying to hold back a giant truck, like 4 of them, unsuccessfully. But it's an incredible show of strength. As as someone who was in the military, how do you feel watching all of this?
There's nothing more that I would like than to be in a Navy boat close by, taking out those convoys with precision ship to land artillery. However, we can't really get involved militarily without, I have a feeling, but I wouldn't risk it on this hunch that his nuclear arsenal might be kind of out of date and shitty, not up to snuff, as we're seeing him run out of fuel and not having the right stuff for the ground invasion that he's doing. But that could invoke that kind of response. That would be the line too far. And it sucks that that's the line. Like, why is that the line? We can send them all, train them on it, put troops all around. But the minute we shoot a rocket into that, then it's all over. It's World War III. Right. I don't get that, but apparently that's the line. And so I think waiting to see whether any of this attack bleeds into any NATO countries triggering Article 5 is going to be interesting, because then we're bound by treaty. We're bound by resolution to militarily lend support. That's how I feel about this. Like, I want to do that. I feel like we could take him if everyone in the world was with us. It's just that nuclear arsenal that he's already sort of said, well, we're going to prepare our readiness for that begs the question, why wouldn't he do that anyway?
Right.
So it's just something we're going to have to see, because I don't understand the end game here, Marissa. I don't understand his end game. If he takes Ukraine, he can't hold it. Nobody's going to want him there. I don't understand. I simply don't. I don't understand.
I don't think some of his generals understand, right? I mean, they were against it. Like, I mean, that's the word on the street, is they were against it. It's very hard to sort of understand what's real news and what's not real news now. Who's spewing which sort of propaganda and who isn't?
I think that the way to end this is a coup in Russia, where the Russian people, if you take away the oligarchs' yachts and their money, and there were already cracks in the oligarchy over there. If you take away their money, you block them from banking and traveling and living the lifestyle that they've sacrificed everything for Putin to have. The generals, the Russian people, they should overthrow Putin. Now, I'm not saying that they're required to. I'm just saying that's the only way out of this that I see.
That's the only way out of it I see too. And I'm obviously not a foreign policy expert like other members of my family. I'm just a lady in a kitchen who knows stuff. In my lifetime, I never expected to see the streets of St. Petersburg and other cities in Russia filled with people unafraid to be on the street speaking out against their government.
So I saw a little bit in 2012, and of course, Putin blamed Hillary for that.
She's amazing, Hillary. She's done that. She managed to keep the whole pedophile ring going. What else has she done recently? Some good stuff.
Baby blood drinking parties.
Yeah. Well, I guess if I drank baby blood, I might be that strong too.
Yeah, that's true.
We're just kidding, people. Especially as a Jew, I don't drink anybody's blood. I just want to be really clear about that. Haven't done it in years.
That's what's stopping you.
That's what's stopping me. If I did, then I really would be the one running the banks. You know, that whole Jews running the banks thing always obviously really upsets me, mostly because I don't have that kind of money. Like, look at me, folks. Doesn't make any logical sense.
But you got the space laser, right? You get to take.
Yeah. I mean, I get the space laser, but almost anybody can really get those out back behind Walmart. I get the special emails about that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I rely on you to tell me
when you can get them.
But of course, I can't operate them.
But you feel better knowing Jews. That's why it helps. It helps us make friends with other people.
It's my Gentile support for your.
Speaking of support, I support you in not being on Spotify. Mr. Joe Rogan, I think it's had very little impact, I think, but I think it's great to have made a stand in the case against horrible people speaking on air. I have another question to ask you, which is good because I'm on a podcast where I ask people questions. I was having some crazy thoughts before this whole, like normal, like just abnormally, just having some sort of wild thoughts. And it's going to take a little explanation, and then I hope you can stick with me, okay? One of the things I've realized in passing as a professor of journalism and hanging around with a lot of college students, and like thinking about people who watch Fox News a lot and how the news is transmitted to people, that a lot of people don't even get the news, right? There are entire swaths of the country that don't know what's going on past their own yard or past their own really angry Board of Education meeting. So I was trying to figure out, like, how do we reach those people? Like, how do we, get the word out to these people that Ukraine is important to us and it's important for us to pay attention to that the Republicans aren't doing them any favors. Is there any way that you see, and we can play fantasy time now if you would like to, you're in charge of educating the United States. I've just appointed you. It's not Secretary DeVos sort of thing. It's just you're in charge of the messaging. And how do you message people? How do you reach them? Is it inside bubblegum wrappers? Is it sending? I started thinking about, like, what if, like, when troops were deployed places, their families were given pamphlets about, like, here's what's going on. And, and I didn't even know, like, is there some sort of education that goes on for families when their family members are deployed other places in the world to sort of bring attention to these things? How do we bring attention to the important things that we need to know before democracy slips away?
That is going to be a tough trick. Democrats are notoriously not good at messaging. I remember during the Mueller investigation, I put out a 20-part series on the Mueller report. 20 parts, 20, 30 hours, right? And there's just no way to condense it down. Like I said, you can't put the Mueller report on a bumper sticker.
I remember.
Oh, much.
Yes.
But what I can do is put a show out and make it funny or entertaining or make it digestible. So you doing what you do is a part of that. And to get into the weeds a little bit, I've reached out to artists like Shepard Fairey, who did the Obama Hope poster, working with the guys at Midas Touch, who've come up with slogans like Vote Blue over Q. We need to tell everyone that these next coming elections are not about Republicans versus Democrats. It's about democracy versus autocracy. And the best way, I think, if we seize the heroic nature of Ukraine's defense of itself and the heroism of Volodymyr Zelensky, and say, hey, look at what they're going through. All we have to do is vote. Now, I know it's difficult, more difficult for some communities than others, but we are voting. We have to preserve democracy at home if we want to help preserve and protect democracy around the world. If we lose our democracy, democracies will fall like dominoes. That's how much influence our democracy has around the world. And so I think if Jamie Harrison, if you're listening, we definitely need to send the message that we're voting to preserve democracy, and not just here, but for people like Ukrainians. And I think that, at least right now, that is good messaging. And all of this is going to, like we talked about, it's going to expose the Republican Party for what it is. The Republicans who support Putin, the fact that they aren't getting any more rubles to support their campaigns. That's, I think, why some of them are turning now, like saying Putin is, I've always thought he was bad.
Yeah.
You helped shut down the Mueller report.
At least Stefanik this morning going, or however she pronounces her name, saying, I am stand with the Ukrainian people. Really? Oh, okay.
Really? Because you didn't vote to convict the guy who blackmailed him for dirt on Joe Biden. People forget. We just have to keep pounding that message out and repeat over and over again. Get that audio clip of him calling him a savvy genius, of Putin calling Putin a savvy genius, and just keep playing it and playing it. Midas Touch is really good at making those videos too, by the way.
Oh, good. I mean, it was like 52 out of 53 Republicans in 2020 voted to prevent us from sending military aid to Ukraine. I mean, to Ukraine.
And voted to acquit Trump of extorting Zelensky. That's who. I don't think a lot of people realize that this Zelensky fellow that they're all in awe of is the guy that Trump tried to drag and impeached for the first time.
Yeah, there's a whole story there that I think we've sort of forgotten in all the mess that's kind of going. I mean, there's just way too much to take on, right? I think, I was listening to your wonderful conversation with Charlotte Clymer. That was, I think it was today's conversation, actually. And you said something about, the expression about the frog being slowly boiled doesn't know it's being. And I thought, that's what we should cook on my show. Slowly boiled frog, at a low simmer, because that's sort of what it feels like. It's just been this never ending series of, oh my God, sort of news.
Yeah. It's like, if, I remember in like 2012, I had lost a bunch of weight, but as I was gaining weight, I didn't notice how much weight I had gained until I saw photos of me from 5 years previous. And now we're in this. If you took a slice of politics out right now and stuck it in 2013, we would all be shocked and blown away. But now we're just kind of like, oh, it's another school shooting. It's another mass shooting. It's another thing. Oh, more voter suppression laws. Oh, Greg Abbott wants to prosecute parents of trans kids for child abuse. Okay. Oh, Florida.
Oh, yeah, you can't say gay in Florida,
We're going to out kids, whether they want to or not, to their parents. And Roe v. Wade's going bye-bye, probably by the fall.
Sorry about that. I mean, yeah.
What's going on Instagram? And that's not, I'm not saying people are jerks for that. It's just we've been given this fire hose of incredible scandal so much over the last 4 years. And that's a tactic. That's an autocratic tactic. It's an active measure. So we're all just sort of like, then you throw a pandemic in the mix.
And people are just exhausted. And so the people who weren't at all interested in the news, that people that I really want to reach are to me, they feel unreachable because they don't want to hear anything about anything because they're exhausted. And the news that comes at them, they think of as lies. So there's a whole discussion that we have to have about why journalism is important, why journalists are important, and why you can trust some journalists, but you can't trust other people who are truly journalists with quotation marks around their name. And that's even saying a lot for them. I think
I saw Chuck Todd today was asking one of his guests, why is it that the country, even though things are pretty great with the economy, why is it that the country doesn't feel like the economy is doing well? I'm like, because of you.
Exactly.
Dems are in disarray. Polling numbers are awful. Everything is terrible. Look at gas prices, kitchen table issues. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, shut your pie hole and report the facts. It's madness. Chuck Todd can't figure out why people are upset about the economy when there's nothing to be upset about. Why on earth could that possibly
be? I don't know. After watching you over and over and over again. Yeah, exactly. I saw the same thing today. And he was like, but so many good things are happening. I'm like, but when was the last time you actually spoke about them and spent an hour talking about that? Let's go back to the good news and puppies hour. I don't think that's by good news. I mean, it's not actually good news, folks. It's just news. It's just news.
You look at the economy numbers for his first year in office, and they blow away every president in history in the first year by a mile. But it's like, Americans are feeling the squeeze, and it's like,
Exactly. And that's exactly how I feel watching him is because I can't.
The adults on the Peanuts cartoons.
Yeah. I wish that you could have a little machine that turned some of his speech into that. I guess I'm never getting Chuck Todd on my podcast. The other problem, of course, and then I suspect, I try to let us all, this podcast end on a happy note or an up note or we just cake. But it's really hard to deliver a decent message when you have such a loud, shrieking, shrill, thin-lipped fish stick. Tucker Carlson and his friends screaming BS into the void, angry BS. And it just, even if you try and say the world's greatest thing, even if you tell them all the good things, there is that their own fire hose of CR asterisk P or crap that's being spoken out there. And I think that's really, really hard. And I don't know how, how we get to shut them down, but I guess we don't.
I don't know, but my hope is that, first of all, that the DOJ is doing something to hold all these folks accountable. And I think they are, but I have no proof. Well, I have some proof, but not the kind that people want to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to see the orange man in handcuffs. That's what they want. But I think the world coming together, honestly, under the leadership of Zelensky.
It took Paddington Bear to bring us all together.
Don't you love that? That's a fun.
Yes.
A comedian, which as a former comedian, I'm like, yeah, comedian. Something to rally behind like that. But we need to do everything that we can to help, everything that we were able to do to help the people of Ukraine. And I think that is on everyone's radar quite a bit more than, say, the Mueller investigation. And we don't have a wicked attorney general to try to stomp out the reality of what's happening. So we'll see. I wish there was more I could do. I do feel like we're in capable hands with Anthony Blinken and Joe Biden and all of his advisors. I know a lot of people feel like all the work we did in 2020 felt like it was for nothing because we didn't get the Build Back Better plan passed. But just think about where we would be and where Ukraine would be if Trump were elected again.
I think that's a positive message that really needs sharing, to be fair. I think that really needs, that should be, that's the message I'm going to spread on Twitter, is that we need to be a little bit grateful, or a lot of bit grateful for some of the things that are going on there. I think because we're so tired and we're so overwhelmed and we so want to see the orange man in handcuffs or whatever it is.
All that work that we did, we're seeing it in these international multilateral sanctions, the NATO being rebuilt, working together to help protect Ukraine and democracy. It's, that's because we did all that work in 2020. I think if we felt a little bit better about that and acted like winners, because we are, it might be a little bit easier going into 2022.
I think on that note, on that very positive note, I will say thank you very much, Dr. Allison Gill. And thank you. And I hope you are able to enjoy some vacation time, staring blankly at a wall, walking in a forest, doing something to kind of regain your strength and vroom and vigor, and also just stop thinking about everything else so that you can come back full of
beans.
Have you thought about that? Full of beans. Daily beans?
Daily. Yeah, and I honestly, I wish I could have some of that cake.
No, the cake is actually, I have to say, it has a really intense kind of almost a caramel smell and almost caramelized outside. In fact, I can hold it up like a large donut. In fact, a large Ukrainian donut. Let's call it that. This on Shrove Tuesday as well, when people around the world, I hope, are eating donuts. Fastnacht, if you're in Amish country, Pakchi, and up in, Polish areas of Michigan and things like that.
Or if you're Catholic, you get some dirt on your head tomorrow.
Tomorrow. But cake today, dirt tomorrow.
Cake today, ashes tomorrow.
And I'll meet you behind the Walmart for your space laser introduction.
Cool. Or, I grab one for you. Just send me the email.
Sure. And on another message, let's keep in touch and keep talking about how we can create a message that the entire United States, or more of the United States, can understand the importance of autocracy versus democracy coming up.
Agreed.
I'll color in posters. I'll do whatever's necessary.
Yep. And we got a great group of people for this. When I think about all of the folks that you and I both know mutually and that we talk on a regular basis, and I'm thinking of Mary Trump and her blog, her Substack, and her podcast. She helps do that. She helps spread that message too. And your brother. And I mean, it's just everyone's in on this together, doing everything that we can to get that message out. So we'll definitely be in touch.
Definitely. See you soon. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us this week. I politely suggest you take some time from the news to give yourself a little refresh, some strength maybe. It's been a harrowing week, and we need to kind of keep our strength up. This war will be a marathon, not a sprint. Bake some cake. Please take care.
In a food system this big, Feeding America races to make sure good food reaches neighbors facing hunger. That's why we work in real time, using technology to connect food to people fast. Together with supporters like you, we partner with local organizations to rescue food quickly, safely, and at scale, so it reaches a home while it still can. Hunger doesn't wait. Food rescue can't either. Give now to help rescue good food for neighbors at feedingamerica.org/rescuefood.